should we call this meeting to order? It is March 26th, this is Broadwater County Commissioners' working meeting, just to talk about what we're gonna do regarding county offices. This is our third meeting on this subject. So you guys have any thoughts before we start?
No.
Anything to-
What is Doug's thought right now of splitting that?
I'm not sure where he's at. I tried to talk to him this morning, but he was busy with a customer. We talked a couple days ago, and then there were some things this week that I'm not sure if they changed or not, so I'd like to talk to him.
Yeah.
So whenever he's done, he said he'd come upstairs.
Okay.
So I'm not sure where he's at. We did talk about some different ideas, but, again, I think it should come from him.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So,
And see what he thinks.
yeah, yeah.
Well, and I think he's got some emails from other clerk and recorders on that.
Yeah,
There's only 3 in the state, Broadwater, Missoula, and Lewis and Clark, that are combined with the treasurer. Now, most of them, and speaking of the devil, there he walks
hey,
in.
we were just chit-chatting.
Were ya?
Yeah, you wanna sit with us?
Oh, sure.
We wanted to, my question was, what is your thoughts on all this? Of splitting that office, splitting that office. Good, bad, indifferent?
Kind of indifferent. I think it would work either way. I had a talk with all my employees yesterday and kind of laid out some new duties, different than, I told Bev that I wanted her to be in charge of taxes.
She's a good employee, isn't she?
Yeah, she is.
She's very good.
And I told Charles that he would be in charge of motor vehicles and he'd be the first one going to the window. Of course, Joyce is on elections, that didn't change, Ann's didn't change. And I told Melissa for right now, I think I would make her deputy treasurer, in title only, not in pay raise or anything like that, just, to see how.
Can you do that without having to give her a raise?
I can do that, yeah, they're allowed a certain percentage of what I give them. Okay, maybe I better check into that because, yeah, I think they can get, I think it's 60 to 90%
Of yours?
of mine. Because I know when Rhonda was Judy's deputy, Judy didn't give her much of an increase for a while to see how she was gonna.
Okay, I just
Handle
wondered
the
about that, if you're absolutely required to, or it's up to you.
Yeah, I'll double check on that one. But as far as switching them to where there's a county clerk and recorder and a treasurer in separate offices, I'm not sure. I've never worked here when it was like that, so I'm not sure what all that would entail. I don't know. I'm sure it would change some of Debbie's duties, it would change some of our duties, it would, I'm just not sure where the line would be drawn on that. As far as balancing and budgets and, just not sure what the clerk and recorder's role would be and all of that, because up until now, that's been, the clerk and recorder part of that has been mostly handled through the finance office as far as checks and balances.
Well, and I know the budget, because I was clerk when they combined the two. The budget was done on the clerk's side.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I know that the report that I've been doing for the end of the month for investments and checks that haven't been returned and things like that. that would go to the clerk and recorder,
No,
and no,
the investment stays with the treasurer.
well, I mean, the report to do a double check on.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I jumped to
Yeah,
conclusions.
that's a report that used to be done in the finance office, and what would happen is when we were finished with our end of the month duties, we would give that report to the finance office. They would check the, checks that were still outstanding, they would check the amounts of the investments, the, amounts of any oppages, and make a spreadsheet, and when they balance to zero, then we would balance if their balance matched ours. That was the double check to make sure that we were doing everything.
And that makes
And
sense.
that's what I think Tammy, Bowser had agreed to kind of start doing that spreadsheet. Just so there is a check and balance under it.
Well, and it's important.
It is.
No,
Yeah.
absolutely, this is a working meeting, so.
You know, because we always have to check one another,
Right,
every office,
right.
just to make sure that we're all 100% correct.
Mhm.
So,
Yep, and that's why Ann, at the end of the month, her month-end stuff goes over to the treasurer's side. Actually, it comes over there every week, and we check what she receipts in. And so the clerk and recorder should check what the treasurer receipts in so there's a double check, so there's no, you can't really say there's no area for embezzlement, but it would,
sure curtail it, wouldn't it?
right,
And that's good.
yeah, because there's a few of those going on statewide that,
It breaks your heart when you look and,
it does.
you know, what got them to the point that they felt like they had to do that?
Mhm.
Obviously, they thought that it had to be done financially for whatever reason,
Well, yeah.
but why don't they think they'll get caught? I mean, they always do.
Yeah, well, and it's not their money to begin with to take.
No, it's
so,
not.
Yeah, I don't know why I guess until you're in that position, you'll never know why, but hopefully nobody in our county will ever be put in that position.
That's right.
I
So,
don't-
that's going on in Ravalli County. There was another one in the paper the other day, but I can't remember who.
Well, there's one that I know of that hasn't hit the papers yet.
Oh.
And that was Jefferson County.
Really?
Is that the same one? They have some issues a couple years ago with, was it the treasurer, or that wasn't the treasurer?
I don't know, a couple of years ago, I didn't hear that one. I just know this time it is the treasurer. What I've heard, and it's all so far, just, nothing's been documented or confirmed, I guess, with. Yeah, it just breaks your heart to hear it, really.
You don't hear it quite as much in government as you do in the private sector, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because-
We should hear a lot of it in the private
Yeah.
sector.
And that's because I think we have so many double checks.
Checks and balances, yeah.
I know we had a call from Jefferson County, one of the deputies over there, they called wanting to know, how do you print a tax bill? Because there'd been so much secrecy that they didn't even know how to print a tax bill.
Really?
She had kept everything, and everybody in my office knows how to print a tax bill, I don't want secrets.
You know, I'm a firm believer in the Big Mac syndrome. If I get run over by a Big Mac truck, everybody else better know what to do. on my
Yeah.
job.
Yeah,
And I'm just a firm believer of that.
yeah, and that's kind of why I had a meeting, I missed Melissa yesterday, I didn't get to talk to her, but I had a meeting with all the other employees and told them this is what I expect of you, and this is what's gonna happen, starting in April, I'm gonna train Bev on the side of the balancing that Melissa does, I'm gonna train Melissa on the side that I do, and then once they get that done, I'm gonna move Joyce over and train her on the part that Melissa does, and train Bev on the part that I do, I mean,
Surely you're gonna cross-train on elections.
yep, in fact, I was down there learning a little bit about the ES&S side, that's all been, Joyce and Rhonda handled most of that, and so Joyce and I were setting up the school election ballots before I came up here, and then I'm gonna train Deb on that too, and Melissa will train on that, so, yeah, it's
It's time to do it.
time to start getting this stuff done.
And speaking of school elections, we don't have any race on the fire board, right?
No,
And what about the school?
the school's having a levy, they're having a mill levy, and they're gonna put 3 of their trustees on the ballot, but they're running unopposed.
So the only thing the election is for the levy.
Yep.
So are you wanting to just work on your department at this point and then address any changes that we talked about this week later, when you see how things are going?
Yeah, I think so,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah, well, I'm not sure, I don't,
You know, Doug, you might find that some people really excel with that and step up, that
that's what
change
I'm
your whole
hoping.
plan, yeah.
Yeah, because I think up until now, and I told him this yesterday, I think Bev's been doing 70% of the work in the office, and I'm getting tired of it. And so, and Bev argued with me a little, she was the one to argue because she didn't think I should take the work away from her, and I said, Bev, believe me, you'll have more work to
Yeah.
do, but
She's such a good
she's just so
employee.
conscientious that she, and if she had a little more experience, she'd be getting the chief deputy job. But, the chief deputy, there has to be somebody that, if I'm gone, people can come to him and say, this just happened, what do I do? What do I do with this or that?
Mhm.
And from watching the people in the office, Melissa's had the coolest head and the best answers
Good.
for most of that. So, and that's really the only reason I think she at least deserves a shot. She's stepped up quite a bit since in the last year and a half.
You know how long ES&S has been in elections? Back in the 90s, when I was
Really?
clerk.
And,
Yeah.
Well, I know when I was just working on the ballot with Joyce and the stuff that I would have thought wouldn't change from ballot to ballot, she's having trouble putting in.
Like, how do you mean?
Like the precincts. How you put a precinct into the ballot.
But the school is one,
Yeah, but
One
you still have
precinct.
to put you still have to put each precinct in, precinct 1.
right?
Yeah. And just the way that you enter the precinct on the ES&S system wasn't working for her. And I would think that would be
Maybe I shouldn't say
something
this, but that's on the
that wouldn't
elementary.
change. I mean, they haven't changed forever.
Uh-huh.
We've had the same precincts, same precinct numbers since I've been here.
Huh. And how does Montana Votes work for you guys?
It's not a very user-friendly system. It takes a lot of lot of memory retention to get through Montana Bullets. That's one thing. Deb and I both went to school on Montana Bullets last year, and Joyce took a refresher course. So I'm really kind of talking to Deb to see if she's interested in elections, even though her background is more financial. I told her I think elections would be a good fit for her because with the elections, it's kind of set up like a financial
It has to
network.
be
I
exact.
mean, yeah, it's very structured. It's not like motor vehicles where you have a little gray area here or there. Elections, this is the date, this has to be done, these have to go out on this date. You know, these ones are absentee, these ones are poll, it's pretty.
Is Joyce keeping the big desk calendar now and putting in tax due dates and election dates? Because a while back, well, I guess Rhonda was still here when she had missed a date, and I said, how did you miss that? And we got talking, and I said, let me tell you what I used to do. And it was color coordinated, taxes was one color
Yeah.
and elections was another.
Yeah.
And you could look at a glance and
Yeah,
you knew
I'm-
what had to be done.
And she's keeping the election. I'm gonna start having Bev do the tax calendar.
Notices. Mhm.
So
Good.
hopefully switching some of the duties around will get everybody working harder and
What can we do to help?
you know, right now, I think. it's
Stay out of our way, huh?
Yeah,
Well, that's good.
yeah, I think things are starting to fall into place and I had a good chewing on a couple of them yesterday and told them
Get with it, huh?
this doesn't work anymore. You know, I'm not here to make you happy, you're here to make me happy.
That's right.
So, we'll see how it goes.
Good
I
for
think
you.
it'll be okay.
Just good for you.
And as you move forward, let us know what it is that you need, not only by assistance, but, you know, when you're ready to make any decisions,
Yeah, all right.
what we can do
Yeah,
there.
as far as switching the office or, you know, splitting the office, you've probably got more of an idea what that's like than I do. You were here when they combined them,
I was.
so I don't know.
And you see this gray hair?
One thing that I think is worth stating is, you said there's 3 counties that have the combined offices, Lewis and Clark, Missoula, Broadwater. Lewis and Clark and Missoula are huge counties.
Oh, yeah.
Is that best practices? I don't know. Something to look at, something to think about. And it's not a decision that needs to be made right now, but what is it that the other 50 so smaller counties are seeing, and how is it they're operating, and why haven't they
Yeah.
switched?
And I've got a couple of emails out because I know we talked about the superintendent of schools being contracted out to someone that was either retired principal or teacher or had college degrees that they require to be a full-time superintendent of schools. And I haven't gotten any answers back on that, so hopefully this week they'll get back to me. I don't know. There's a superintendent of school convention coming up in April, maybe they're getting ready for that.
And with that too, is there's some requirement, if it's split, that your superintendent of schools has to have, 3 years in education?
Right, or be a retired, yeah.
Yeah. Who's the ED for that, or the point person? Who's the Rhonda Wiggers or the Harold Blatty for the superintendents? Do you know? Is it Kirk Miller?
I'm not sure, I know, most of the time when I have a question, I deal with just the other superintendent of schools. I would think It's gonna be somebody with OPI would be my guess, but I'm not sure who it would be.
You know, if you don't get any responses, Kirk Miller used to be a superintendent, he now works for OPI. I think he's the head of that, but don't quote me. I'll get you his phone number. He might be a good resource for
Okay.
some questions on
Yeah,
that.
that's, yeah. I mean, so far we haven't had any big snafus or not too many, I mean,
I mean, that one with the taxes, you know,
right. Yeah,
but
and
you
they-
corrected that in 1 year. I mean, that
Well,
was
yeah, and they've kind of taken that out of our hands.
true.
Now,
Yeah.
last year, the mills for the schools were set up by OPI, that were gonna be sending your FP 6B and FP 8 and FP 9 and FP 10 reports and what's on there is what you know, you don't,
Pretty cut and dry.
yeah, that's just the way it is. Which sounds better, I mean, it'll be a better process, I think.
Well, and so many counties were making the same mistake that it should hopefully put an end to
Yeah, and
that.
I think what happened with us more than anything was the report we were getting from Three Forks School where it said that Jefferson County had 10% and we had 20% and Gallatin had 70%. I think that's what was confusing everybody, is they thought that when we mill, we only mill 20% of the amount, but I think they were sending different reports to each county, telling Broadwater County, you're paying 20% of the total. This amount wasn't the total, that was our 20%, and we had to mill 100% of that. We weren't doing that, we were milling 20%.
So it was confusing.
It was very confusing.
Thus the change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How many families do we have that are homeschooling now?
We've got about 21.
And surely they haven't done anything to put a clamp on making sure that those kids are getting what they need, right?
Not really, yeah, when you're homeschooled, it's pretty
Open.
loose environment other than
Mhm.
the structure the parents have. And I know there were a few that went to homeschooling because they had problems with the school over here. And that was the only reason they went to homeschooling. It wasn't anything to do with religion or what was being taught or anything like that. It was just, there was some kind of problem going on in the school and they didn't like the way their kids were being treated, so they were in homeschooling.
Well, I remember a family that was reported to me that this former teacher had laid out stuff, lesson plans and things for them. And it wasn't being followed at all.
Mhm.
And my hands were tied, I couldn't do a thing about it. They filled out the form, that's all it took.
Yeah. Yeah, and really, I don't know. I don't know how the superintendent of school, county superintendent of schools would, I mean, that would be such a time-consuming, labor-intensive, even just for 20 families to, you would basically have to go over all the paperwork and all that.
Doesn't the state have guidelines and they check on this, don't they?
No?
They don't?
I think mostly
Pretty
what's
loose.
checked on is what the parents send in.
This is one of
I
the
mean,
most
they do
lax
have, they
states.
do have tests at the end of their, schooling in order to get a GED. But other than that, I don't think there's a lot of,
Is there, most of these are grade school, is there some high school ones that are homeschooled too then?
Oh, yeah.
Quite a few.
You know, interesting enough, homeschoolers have the biggest lobbyist at the legislature,
really.
the very biggest. Because
Wow.
when people were complaining about them, you gotta shut them down,
Yeah.
believe me.
Mm.
They had a heck of a lobby effort. And in all fairness, Christy Geiser has homeschooled her kids. And those kids now, I don't think of the last one's name. If it's Scott, Sean.
Is that,
or-
I mean, he's in high school,
Yeah,
yeah.
and he runs a 4-point, and he's playing ball. He wanted to come out of homeschooling so he could play ball. And he's a little good ball handler.
Mhm.
But he makes the honor roll with a 4-point, which says a lot for Christy and her program.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, you know, some of them do it with the right reason. And probably are more strict than the teachers at school. And then some of them are doing it because their kids got in trouble in school and they think that Johnny's being picked on, and so they take him out of school and, yeah, you have both ends. For the most part, I think most of our homeschoolers are pretty conscientious in what they're doing. I think they're,
I have to admire it.
yeah, it's a lot of work.
You bet it is, and they have to be really dedicated. Every morning at 8:30 we do this, 10
Yeah.
o'clock we do this, I mean, hats off to them.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't wanna, in the conversation, cause I think these are important topics, but I have to leave at noon. So I'd like to maybe stay on, the restructuring conversation, then maybe move into the other this afternoon, if that works.
Sorry.
No, that's fine, I just wanna make sure we stay on topic so that we don't have to table it until tomorrow, unless you guys wanna do that, I'm totally cool with that. I have a 10 o'clock meeting in Helena, but I could be available at noon.
I can't,
I
I'm
can't
going to
tomorrow.
the dentist tomorrow.
Okay, all right. One question I do have, in the interest of getting us back on topic, is just a question.
Okay.
And this is a job description that was sent to me by a constituent, and this is based on what they see that the county needs. And what I'm wondering, Doug, is what do you think? This person, from reading the job description, would essentially be, they wouldn't necessarily set up the county budget or work with department heads, but they would be more of a HR and more of maybe a treasurer than finance. They would do the county's management, administrative activities, coordinate department assignments, lead development of short and long-term range planning, provide professional advice, recommend and oversee implementation of policies, rules, and regulations, conduct research and studies, recommend practices and procedures and organizational changes for greater efficiency, direct and supervise, advise, motivate, counsel, train, evaluate the work and performance of employees, represent the commissioners in relationships with department heads, other governmental agencies, news media and citizens. They'd have a working knowledge of MCA and county regs, county policies and procedures, county budget and the budgeting process, public sector budgeting and budget management practices, supervisory practices and procedures, principles and practices of public administration, and strategic planning. The job would require equivalent to a 4-year degree in public administration, business, and related fields, 3 years' experience as an administrator or manager. This could fill the 3-year educational requirement for like the public administration, for superintendent of schools. And since there has been some pushback over contracting HR, we bring HR in-house. With somebody with HR knowledge. This would probably be, a very well-paid position, probably one of the higher that we'd have. But I told him I'd bring this forward to you guys and get some feedback. What do you guys think?
Who brought this up? Who did this?
Who brought this up was Roger Halver, and he has experience in some of these areas. It's just from what he's witnessed in these meetings. and from some of our discussions, I would imagine.
Or can I get a copy? of
No,
that?
you may not.
Yes, I can.
You may not have a comment, we are in a working meeting. We are working on this, we'll discuss things
Can you
later.
just pass me a piece of paper? I'd like to read
No.
along with you.
I don't have an extra one, John.
Oh,
You may
gee, that's
listen.
great.
The other option, I mean, you have to look at the dollars here. We don't know yet if we are even interested in splitting your office. This would address some of that. The other thing is if we contract HR out, it is quite a bit less expensive, and we have somebody who's already knowledgeable. To go this route, of course, we advertise. We'd probably be looking at not filling this position for probably minimum 2 months, maybe 3 months, just based on how long it takes. But just looking for feedback, what do you guys think?
I don't have any comment until I would have time to really read it.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking this would be a next working meeting discussion that we marry to what is discussed today. And at that point, either decide this is the best option or discard it. But I wanted to bring it forward and get your opinions.
Do we know other counties that do this?
Some counties contract HR, like Madison, Park, Powell, I think Granite, and others like Lewis and Clark have HR in-house.
But for the chief administrative officer,
Eric Bryson is the chief administrative officer. So we know Lewis and Clark has it. And this was actually, if I understand correctly, this was modeled off of what Eric Bryson does.
well, and I know Petroleum has an administrator, and that's a very small county. And it's been that way for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, so, you know, I think, I appreciate anybody bringing forth ideas that we can mull over, think about, discuss. The more information we have, the more options we have, the better decision we'll make in the end.
Well, could we not do this, anything on this today? Just take it home
Absolutely.
and read it thoroughly.
Absolutely. One question I have, the interest in moving forward then, is filing for our office. This is something I've brought up numerous times, and I feel we need to make a decision on this. And Doug, you don't have to stay, but you certainly can, and any input you have will be welcome if you decide to stay. But Tammy Rouser agreed to work on filing one day last week, and she had worked in the past to kind of help set that up years ago. And she spent the entire day. I talked to her in the afternoon and she said, this is a mess. This is an absolute mess. She said, there's no way I can do this. She said, what you need is somebody who's going to come in here for a number of days, full-time, immerse themselves in it, clean it up, revamp it, and then she would be happy to come in on a weekly basis and file for us. Obviously, she can't do that because she already has job responsibilities. Lisa Gibson is currently working for the weed department as the secretary at $10.25 an hour. She is looking for more time, and she revamped that office with their filing.
Did you do a good job?
She did a great job, according to Scott. He has sung her praises over and over again. We need somebody to fix the filing. I don't have time with everything else I'm doing for the commission. If we need somebody who knows filing, who understands the importance, who understands how to do it. So what I would like to know is, are you guys, do you have another suggestion to solving our filing issue? Or do you support somebody who's making just $10.25 an hour to come in and do that for us? We'll need to do an amendment to our budget because we have not budgeted for this. But if it's not going to be done by us, somebody has to do it. We
That's
cannot
right.
continue to just pile our paperwork, because when somebody needs something, we have no idea where it's at other than that pile of paperwork. So what are your guys' thoughts?
Well, if this gal did a good job for, in the weed, and I think we should think about that or consider it anyway to start with.
Well, she obviously understands filing and what it takes, that this isn't just,
And what's this, like, a couple hours a day, or a couple hours a week, or what,
well, until she can get it straightened out,
Well,
it's gonna be
there-
more than that.
yeah, I'd say that, but, well, she could probably do that, I don't know how much it'd be. Maybe just work weeks straight on it or something like that, then after that, you know, a couple hours a week probably.
Well,
You know more about this end of it than anybody.
well, and
does.
I think, if I understood Laura correctly, Tammy's willing, once it gets all straightened out, Tammy's willing to do it,
Oh, so in other words, we hiring this gal to
as a temp,
to get everything in place.
yeah. What are your thoughts on it all?
It needs to get done. It's a mess, it needs to get fixed. I see a couple of solutions, but I don't see any of them working. I don't see any other solution, that has the realism of working other than getting Lisa to come in and fix the mess we have.
And is she willing?
I haven't talked to her, but she did tell Scott she was looking for more hours. So I believe she would be willing. And when it's done, Tammy is more than happy to come in and file for us a couple hours a week. But she just, on top of everything else, we'd be paying overtime. Time and a half now, we're paying another employee to do something that should be done at no extra cost. But without that, we need somebody to go in there and fix it.
Well, and they probably need to go through all of the files, not just the stack of papers to be filed, but all of the files, to make sure that they're where they need to be.
That's the problem. Somebody started just throwing things in. This was probably done about a year ago, and it is a mess. So, this is one of those things that we either need to commit to doing it, ourselves, or we need to hire somebody as a temp to come in and fix the problem.
I know we can't make motions here, being it's a working meeting, but I would suggest that, short of a motion, that we check with Lisa and see, would she be interested?
And if she is, bring it forth on Monday?
Yeah.
Is that agreeable to the entire
What's your
commission?
thoughts, Franklin?
I'd go with that, yeah.
Okay.
Or maybe, and then we should have, have her come, right, visit with us.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And she realized, I don't know how long it's gonna take to get into it. I wouldn't think it'd take over a week or two, would it?
It depends on what she finds, I can't say.
Yeah, you're talking about a year's worth of documents.
Mhm.
One thing you might check would be maybe with Debbie and see, I'm sure there's documents that are related to the budget, documents that are related to journals. We used to do each month at the commissioner meetings, documents that are related to resolutions,
Those are all in one file, called a pile. The pile file.
I know
Yeah.
she was pretty, I worked with her a little bit when she was straightening Scott's office out. I ran a lot of reports for her so she could get things in
So
order.
is
find
this
out
a
what
little
went
girl?
on.
Mhm. Yeah, she's going to school. So this would be, around her class schedule. But it's not something that needs to be done from 9 to 5.
No.
They're all public, so it's not like she'd be getting anything confidential. That would stay with HR. So, yeah, I'm here almost every day, so I'd be here if she needed any, to get into the office or needed into anything that's locked.
Well, my suggestion is talk to her, see if she's interested,
Okay?
and bring it to us Monday.
It's really one of the most cost-effective ways to do this. So, okay, I will do that.
Does she still work for Scott?
Yeah, she does the weed secretary work.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. She helps with grants. She's got all that organized in his office. Of course, the tracking of the grants is done through the budget and through the budgeting process, but she does the monthly reports, that kind of thing. So, yeah, she's pretty sharp from what I know. I've seen her work a little bit, but Scott's worked most closely with her. Debbie's worked with her. They both have good things to say.
Let's check it out.
Okay, all right. Here's the next question I have, and this is pertaining to Doug. Tammy Rouser is right now 32 hours a week. Maybe I should back up a little bit. Debbie Kelly is right now payroll, budget, and HR. She has 1.5 jobs that she's doing as one person. She was given all of the finance officer duties on top of her already full-time job, and she's done a spectacular job. This is not something we, as responsible employers, can continue to ask of any employee. So, did a little bit of research into what some of the jobs are that need to be done and have been done by various people. Overseeing payroll clerk, supervisor, another employee, HR point of contact, that's gonna be payroll for anything that's payroll related, which is quite a bit. New employees, their welcome packets, the personal policy handbook, garnishing of wages when that needs to be done. All the things that go with that are confidential, that are HR, those would still be done by this particular position. Filing fuel cards, that needs to be done. We talked with Debbie about that before. Cell phone account needs to be done. Airport fuel, health insurance committee administration, cash reconciliation with Doug's office, county boards, maintenance, food and phone and email list, the fixed asset list, work comp claims, county insurance. Debbie feels that if some of these responsibilities were lifted, and she talked to us already about that she could do payroll and the county budgets. The overall budget, which starts in March, we're in March, plus the working with department heads on their individual budgets. She wouldn't set them up, that's up to department heads, just like it was last year. But she would work with them, she would administer them, she would guide them, let them know of anything that's she sees coming up. And then, some of these other positions would go to other people. The fuel cards, Tammy would take that over. The cell phone accounts, Tammy would take that over. Airport fuel accounts, that might actually go to Doug's office, since it goes through Melissa right now anyway. So if that were okay with you, all it is going into the account and changing it twice a year, or if they choose to for the 4th of July. Health Insurance Committee Administration, we'd have to find somebody for that, and I don't think that would be too hard. Cash reconciliation, Tammy is interested in learning something new, and she is willing to increase her hours to do that. She's at 32 right now. She's getting full health benefits at 32 hours. She would go to 36 hours. And that would be just an increase per year of a little over $3,000, $3,050 to the budget. The county boards, that would probably go to the same person as doing the health insurance committee. Phone and email list would be Tammy. Fixed asset list would be Tammy, she does that right now anyway. Work comp claims, that would go to payroll, but Tammy, as the administrator for the safety committee who works on work comp, would share that responsibility. And then the county insurance is Tammy. So if we did something like this, that would actually create a new position of accounting manager, payroll and budget, for one full-time position. And when you look at the budget, when you look at the dollars, one of the highest paid people in the county was the finance officer. She was making almost a little over $22 an hour per year, her salary was $70,000. That was also the department that grew more than any other. It tripled in size in 8 years. No other department even doubled in size. So one thing we could do is not fill in that position, but take these jobs and spread them out. If we did that and created an accounting manager, we could increase Debbie's pay to something that's comparable, and she's put together a proposal. The increase to the budget for that would be $7,500 a year total, because she's already got the health benefits as a full-time employee. So instead of spending $70,000 a year, we would be spending $13,000 for this proposal. So that's another thing to look at. The thing is we have to get to a point where we're no longer just chatting about this stuff, that we're actually committing to it, because again, budget season starts in March, and we're at the end of it. If we went with this idea, we could talk to some of our other part-time employees about taking on the Health Insurance Committee administration and the county boards and the airport fuel, and each of those people responsible would have to say yes. You know, it's not something we're just gonna shove on people. And then this other idea that came forward is one that we could consider separate of this, or we could look at Plan A, which was the contracting HR. But we have to be willing to commit to that as well, and that would be about $14,000 a year. We're still saving about $50,000 a year, which is significant. So.
Who all is part-time right now?
And we talked about Nicole picking up some of these things too, maybe.
Part-time employees are Debbie Ruckel, Nicole, and Tammy. Just 3 of them. Am I missing anyone?
You are.
Tara is, but
Yeah.
she's, I don't think it would fit with anything that she does right now for the judge. But she is still part-time, you're right.
What about Audrey?
No, she's full-time.
Is she full-time? Oh.
I'm sure, isn't she? Bobby's full-time.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I
cool.
didn't think about Tara. And we certainly could ask her if she's interested in extra hours.
So who's there again? Debbie Ruckles, Nicole, Tara,
And Tammy.
and Tammy.
Yep.
And how many of those already have health insurance?
Tara does not, she's exempt. She's the only one, the other 3 have health
They get it
insurance.
through her husband, she gets it through her husband. I don't think it'd hurt to talk to him and see.
For some reason, I thought Audrey, of course, maybe it's changed, because I thought she only worked a couple days a week. But she's here every day then.
Yeah.
Oh, then maybe that's changed then.
It's been that way for quite a few years, at least since we've been here,
Yeah.
so 5
I'm
years.
sure that,
Actually, not just here every day, sometimes she's here as late as I am.
Yeah,
I've seen her here pretty late.
okay.
Yeah, she's,
I think the court system has grown so, the workload, that
yeah, I think they kind of went from being a small county to at least workload wise,
a little bigger,
a
huh?
little bigger, yeah.
well, you think about it, from the last census, which was 2000 to 2010, we grew by over 26%. We grew by a quarter of our size, and since then, we've been averaging 2.4% a year. That's a lot of growth. We were the 2nd fastest growing county in the state. So, yeah, we did grow,
Yeah,
we changed. And the thing is we can either keep knee-jerking, or we can plan to address our growth. And I think that's what these meetings are about.
yeah, I think it's something that's been put off too long. I mean, it's just like the HR position, things have changed and we've just been status quo for a long time, just going with the flow and like it or not, change happens.
Well, it's time to bite the bullet.
Mhm. And either direct the change or it bowls you over. So,
And then I've got pictures of the silos area that I took when I was windsurfing
oh
14
man,
years ago when there were no houses.
And now
that you
look at
can
it.
even see in the picture anyway, there might have been one or two down there, but, yeah. You don't get a picture of the lake anymore without a house somewhere in it,
yeah.
Well, look it up at Miles's old place.
yeah.
You got Lazy HM and you got Spruce Grove and everything in between.
And there are quite a few down by Three Forks, despite the
Mm-hmm.
problems they've had down there with their subdivision, there's got a lot
Have you guys driven
of
through?
houses in.
Holy cow.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had
Yeah.
a couple realtors in this week, and they said things are starting to move. They didn't, one was just in this morning, he said he's getting 1 or 2 calls every day. People looking for
Really?
houses, he said it's been a long time since,
Yeah.
he said they might not buy one every day, but he said I'm at least getting 1 or 2 calls every day, and he said you just gotta go play the averages.
Call's the first step.
Yeah.
You know, when
Mhm.
financially, when it dove down, there were over 4,000 lots available in Colorado County. And those are dwindling.
They are.
Talked to a realtor at that chamber event, and she said that there's like 300 and some, I forget the number, but just over 300 available lots in the county. Now, it doesn't mean that the 3,700 sold. It means that some of those subdivisions didn't get to final plat, but it also says a lot of them sold. So I have some job descriptions for this accounting manager position. I did make copies, I can just scan them to you guys. What do you think about this? Putting together the job description and advertising in-house and going this direction? Or, what are some other thoughts that you
They're all
have?
different. Say that again, please.
This is being asked because it's March and we're in budget season. Do we want to go ahead and put together this job description and vote on it as well on Monday and start the advertising in-house to change this job description? Or do we want to, or do you have another idea?
Well, would you do those other, dividing that up at that same time?
We would talk about it, yeah. It would be a matter of talking to those particular folks and seeing, what they think about taking on those extra jobs. I'm not sure that, it needs to be done in a commission meeting, that's managerial, but I think we should talk to those people first.
Oh, it's only fair.
Yeah, but I don't think that matters when it comes to creating the new accounting manager position. Somebody would have to take those on, so.
And dealing with, as far as dealing with the airport fuel, that would be a walk in the park, I think, compared to everything else that,
Can I put a CNR here for that then?
yeah, I wouldn't
Okay.
have any problem taking that on.
Oh, good, thanks.
So who would you give that to?
I would probably go to Melissa, she's the one how to do, just set up a folder and a file for it. And, yeah, we're doing most of the airport fuel comes in through A101s right now anyway. And we've talked to them a couple times, we've talked to the airport, they were considering trying to order their fuel and pay for it with a automatic transfer funds, which would save them tons of money. And I don't know whatever happened to that, they came in twice and we haven't heard from them again, so. We looked into it and figured it could be done and just haven't heard from them again, so.
They watch the fuel prices on a daily basis. I wonder if they're waiting to see a dip and then come in and act.
That could be, I know when they order their fuel, if it's a electronic fund transfer, it saves them a certain amount per gallon,
Yeah.
which the amounts that they order ends up being a pretty substantial amount.
Do they go through a lot of fuel out there?
They do.
They have a reputation as the least expensive fuel in the area, so pilots will stop here on purpose. And then they have that
Part of
van.
is the way that they manage it, they do a good job.
Mhm.
Didn't realize that.
Yeah, I think they use more of the Walmart business sense, you know, sell a lot, make a little, instead of sell a little and try and make a lot off 1 gallon. They try and give everybody a good deal and still make enough to keep going.
So who do they contact on how to decide what to set the prices at? Is that through some state thing or?
No, I think all of their fuel comes through Visicon, I think is the,
They have an app that gives them that price on a
Yeah,
daily
I'm not
basis.
sure.
I'm not sure who it's with.
Hmm.
I know the only amounts we see go through, maybe it's not Visicon, I can't think of it. Shows up on a bank statement under initials. I can't think of it right now. CCV, something like that. City Service Valcon, what it is. Maybe that's just who hauls it for them, I'm not sure.
So, at the two different docks, do they do the same thing? The boats can come in there and buy fuel?
I don't know.
Do you know, Franklin?
I don't know. Yeah, I haven't seen anything for the, I mean, most of the docks, I think, aren't they all privately owned or most of them? I mean, Goose Bay was the only one that I never saw anything coming.
Yeah, it was all private there.
Yeah,
Mhm.
That's Jerry Road, right?
Mhm.
right.
Well, what about
No,
Sharon
it's-
out here?
They don't have, is there fuel right now? No, I don't think
I'm not sure, I don't think
I don't think there's fuel.
If they do, it's gotta, yeah, I don't think they have a dock down on the, not in the water,
No.
not the last time. Most of the docks, I think, were in Lewis and Clark.
Yeah, we just have one this way.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think about Monday and the accounting manager position?
I think we can discuss it.
Well, we probably should check with these people who are gonna kind of
Right.
And that's
roll it out
secondary.
and then go from there.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is, let's not make any decision, let's table it for another working meeting.
No,
Okay. The additional jobs, that's our job managerially as commissioners. That isn't necessarily you don't advertise something like that. The accounting manager, the reason I feel that we need to make a decision is, one, we've talked about this now for over a month, 6 weeks, since we started
it's
having
budget
these
time
meetings.
besides.
Budget time started 3 weeks ago. Do we continue spinning our wheels, or do we decide we're going to bring this forward Monday, we're all in agreement this is the right way to go, and we're gonna move forward? Or is there an alternative idea,
We
suggestion?
can advertise it in-house first, correct?
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm
As
fine
we're,
with that.
Okay, as we're thinking about this, one of the other things that I think should be brought up is pay. The previous, position didn't have nearly the responsibilities, and it was at $21.73 an hour. No, well, no, it was 22.25 roughly. I don't think I think that's too high.
So do I.
Okay, I think we should start at 20. That's in line with what the other department heads are making. We do have to have something that's competitive because we don't want to get somebody trained and then have to go through the process all over again because we are underpaying.
Okay,
So-
now, what's the total job description for this person that you're talking about now?
They would oversee payroll. They would be a supervisor. They'd have one employee under them. They would be the HR point of contact for everything that is HR payroll related. They are department manager, responsible for RFPs, IFBs, and bids. They would, their department would be responsible for cash reconciliation with Doug's department. They would, they would do the budget, they would do the audit every year, and they would work individually with department heads on their budgets. The other thing to keep in mind is their department would be responsible for filing fuel cards, cell phone accounts, the phone and email listing, and the fixed assets, the work comp claims, and the county insurance.
But those last one you just named off, those are ones that are gonna be put out to these, or check with
No.
people, for the part-time ones.
No,
No,
this would be just for that account manager, accounting manager. Go through and list off the ones that we would pass out amongst.
what would be passed out would be the airport fuel, health insurance committee administration, and the county board's administration.
I think there was something else we're missing.
Filing would still, I think maybe some of the confusion is Tammy is under Debbie. And that's why the responsibility still sits with Debbie as far as the filing after it gets fixed, the cell phone accounts, the cash reconciliation, the phone and emails, fixed assets, work comps, and county insurance.
Can you whip up a job description?
What we need to do first is get it into the minutes that we approve this position, and then we have a job description. As soon as that's done, then we start the 5 days in-house, and then we can make the selection based on who has put in for it. Interview if that's necessary, if there's more than one employee. Even if there's one, I think we should still interview. But, yeah, we can have the job description.
I think we should have the job description first.
We certainly can, that's not exactly how the policies and procedures work, but we certainly can. Can we bring it up Monday is the question, or do we want to go ahead and continue waiting?
I think we've waited long enough.
Okay. Even at the $20 an hour, we are still looking at an increase of $7,500 for the year, and that's still a savings. Even when you look at Tammy's additional 4 hours a week, we're still saving the taxpayers $60 grand a year. It's significant. And that doesn't include any of the HR that we talked about before or anything else.
I'd say put it on the agenda for Monday.
Okay, are you okay with this, Franklin?
Well, I'm still not sure yet.
What are your
I-
questions?
Now, you're talking about 7,500 now. Are you somebody in-house that's just gonna take over this extra work
Correct.
for roughly 7,500.
Correct.
Because of more hours.
It's a
Right,
whole
yeah,
new job
yeah.
that they're doing. They're going from payroll and HR to becoming an accounting manager for the county. It's a total job description change.
But it could still be one of these persons.
Yeah, if they wanna put in for it, it would be advertised in-house.
Okay, but
That
if
means
not,
Mhm.
then it's a separate, job.
I don't think,
If nobody in-house goes for it,
Mhm.
right? And then we'd have to rethink that again.
When they would replace Tammy's job.
Right, yeah. Yeah, we'd have to look at that because we have somebody doing payroll right now. What we would be doing is, if nobody puts in for it, we'd be looking at shuffling jobs, and we would potentially be looking at replacing somebody. I don't think that's gonna be the case. I think that we'll have at least one, if not more, current employees interested in this position. And if we don't, then I think we need to come back to one of these meetings and see what the next step is.
I'm sure you'd have somebody interested.
Yeah,
Well, I'd go along on that effect of it. But I don't want to see it creating a whole separate, if somebody in-house can take this for their additional wage, I'd go along with that.
okay, that's what we're talking about. The other, we have to go back to the drawing board.
Oh, yeah, definitely on that.
Okay, now, Tammy's position increasing by 4 hours per week. Are you guys good with that as well?
I'm fine with that.
Cost effectively, it is the wisest way to go. Are you okay with
Well,
that,
yeah,
Franklin?
that's why I think any of this, so we can keep in the departments, I guess you say. I'm for that, but if we're gonna start stretching out somewhere else, then that's a whole different
Well, I don't think
ballgame,
we're
right?
talking that.
Okay.
Yeah, no, what,
Well, we're just gonna,
you're talking philosophy.
I guess.
Okay. I think that's all the questions I had then, as far as that goes. I think, anything else on any of the immediates?
There's only one other thing I'm still working on, and we've talked about it, is the wages in our office. And I don't know how it got to be this way, but the people in my office are the lowest paid office workers in the county. And we probably do more work than any other office in the county. Tammy Rouser, just as an example, was hired at a higher starting wage than people in my office that have been there for 10 years.
Really?
And I think that's criminal.
How'd that come about that way?
There's those
I can only speculate on how that came about, and I'm not gonna do that.
Okay.
But,
It was the lack of doing what we're doing right now.
yeah,
Lack of planning,
yeah, lack of planning,
looking
basically
forward.
is what it was.
It was a knee jerk.
And
it was long before us.
It's just, the wages in my office, I've checked with 10 other counties that, to see what they give for wages. Counties that are comparable in tax value and tax value compared to their, population. Beaverhead County is, most of their people are making around $60 an hour. Blaine County, they start their clerks at $16 an hour.
What are the average in
19.
your job?
What's that?
What is the average in your office?
The average in my office, right around, I didn't work out the average, I would say probably around $14 an hour.
I have it
And
right
that's
here,
That's counting the people that have been there 12, 14 years,
$13.91,
13.91.
not including the overhead.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Tammy is still even making more than any in my office, and that's counting. Joyce has been there for 14 years, Ann's been there for 12 years. You know, and just in my opinion, they have a lot more, I don't know if I could say a lot more stress, but they have to know a lot more laws, they have to deal with the public a lot more than the finance office. And I just, you know, that just, to me, it just doesn't seem fair.
Joyce has been there longer than 14, has she not?
I think she started in '99.
Okay, because I was the first one back there,
Yeah,
and I left here in 2000.
okay, yeah.
At the end of
90, I
2000.
think I have her down as starting in '99, I can't remember the month. And that's kind of where I've been putting off assigning somebody as a chief deputy job. Trying to see if I could use the chief deputy wages to compensate for the wages that the others should have. You know, I don't think the chief deputy deserves to be making times more than all the others, because they don't do a lot more work, but they do have a lot more responsibility. So I think they should make a little more, but, yeah.
What are
it's
some
just-
of those other averages you have? We have Beaverhead and Blaine.
Blaine, Shoto, Shoto was comparable to us, their clerks are making about $13.86. Ponderay, they started at $12.43, after 1 year they moved them to $14.62. Madison County, all Madison County gave us were deputy positions, they were both at $19.88. Teton didn't answer. Toole County, they started them in the treasurer's office, they start their clerks at $14.24. Clerk and recorder's office, they start them at $14.29. That's starting wage, that's what, Melissa's been here since 2002, she's making $14.11.
So you're still thinking at this point, you're not interested in assigning yet a deputy, but you do want to look at a market adjustment. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so, I think there should be a market adjustment, it's hard to expect people to come in and do more work than most of the other offices and get less money. It's just-
Right.
I mean, it's just,
And what's fair is fair.
yeah, I know, I started working there at $7 an hour,
Really?
and it was when Judy was the boss, and she would come in and every week she'd say, I'm working on getting you guys a raise, I'm working on getting you guys a raise, and then finally, I don't know what happened, she got the idea somewhere that I was gonna leave for greener pastures, and we got bumped up to about $10 an hour.
Is that when the commissioners went through and said, everybody will make at least $10 an hour?
Mhm.
All the county employees, at least.
Yeah.
One of the things that we need to keep in mind is that Me Too clause. With the Me Too clause, we cannot say, we're gonna take this money that would have been used for a deputy and spread it out evenly with all the employees, because there's nothing that allows us to do that with the Me Too clause. The Me Too clause, however, does have a market adjustment ability. So if we can prove a market adjustment, then they can be moved, any employee can be moved to what that would be. So it actually, is gonna cost a little bit more money because of the Me Too clause. Because we can't simply say, we've got an extra $1.10 an hour and it's gonna be divvied out. in this way. If you do take those averages you gave us, Doug, Beaverhead, Blaine, Shoto, Pond Array after 1 year, because everyone's been here after 1 year, not Madison, not Teton, and Tool, both totals, you come up with an average of 1484.
Your starting wage.
If you wanted to bring everybody in that office up to 1484 an hour to be in with a market
Comparable
adjustment,
with the other offices anyway.
yeah.
So that would be $1 an hour increase.
For some, not for all, because they make different totals.
Yeah, and that's where I have trouble with my office, is because they're, a lot of them are questioning the longevity, which
At the sheriff's office.
the sheriff's office has, but no one else has, and I can kinda understand that. I mean, I've worked here 14, they've worked here 3, and they're making the same amount I'm making. Now, that, in a way, that doesn't sound fair, but none of the other offices have longevity. And what I've told them is we're trying to fix something that's been skewed for a long time. And it's gotta be fixed in a way that it's gonna be okay in the future for whoever takes over this office next time. So with the market adjustment, I think what we're looking at is when I give the job descriptions, there has to be a beginning wage and an ending wage, and that should be kept comparable to the other offices.
Well, and by law, the sheriff's office can have longevity. Does it allow for other offices to have longevity?
I'm not sure on that. I'd have to check the codes and see what that says. That's a good question.
It is, and it's one of those that, we wouldn't really be able to address right now. We'd have to wait till we get into the budget.
Then it's a place to start.
It is, asking the question is a place to start. Would it be, for your department, Doug, you're talking about different job descriptions for each individual position. Would to figure out a market adjustment, could you find out how much a motor vehicle employee makes, a elections employee, a clerk and recording employee? I mean, that's getting really into the mud.
Right.
The other thing to look at is, you gotta keep in mind morale. One of the things you said earlier is one of your employees who's doing 70% of the work happens to be one of the lowest paid.
Mhm.
Is it always longevity that equals the most
Right.
aggressive, hardworking, efficient employees?
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
necessarily.
And basically what I told them when it came to longevity, I said, I'm just trying to make everything fair. And I know there's supposed to be a separation of church and state, but I said there's a story in the Bible where the ruler hires a guy for a penny a day in the beginning of the day, and at noontime he goes out and finds a guy not working, he hires him for a penny a day, and towards the evening, there's another guy working, he goes out and he hires him for a penny a day, and when the day's over, he gives them all their penny. And the guy that was the first out on the field came to him and he says, "What's going on? I worked through the whole heat of the day and these guys are making as much as me." And the owner said, "Because I wanna make things fair and treat everybody the same as your hard people." That was his answer, and that was kind of my answer. I said, because I'm trying to make this where it's gonna be right from now on.
Well, with this coming up, I know there's some unrest with lots of county employees on their wages. I'm not so sure we don't need to look at everybody. I'm not saying everybody gets a raise, I'm not saying that at all. I just think it bears looking at and seeing.
Well, and that's, and I wasn't gonna mention this, but I was just looking at the, elected official salaries. Clerk of court is 1843. Where's Gary? Justice of the peace is 1843. You know, that's not much more than a lot of the,
Employees.
clerks that are working for them. Brenda's wages, her, you know, what's going on over there isn't even
Mm.
legal.
You know,
And, you know, I think the elected officials in other counties, and I could check into that too, but I know, Jefferson County, their clerk and recorder makes $67,000 a year.
Mhm.
Their treasurer makes $67,000 a year. That's $134,000. I do both of those jobs and two more, and I make $40,000 a year. You know, then I don't think in any way, shape, or form I'm worth $134,000 a year, but, you know, it just, when the county grows, you know, we should try and keep up with other counties if possible. You know, it's not a mandate or anything, but I've seen, and Brenda's seen this, her employees leave Broadwater County and go to Jefferson County and other counties because the wages are higher. And their wages aren't gonna be any higher unless hers go higher. And hers aren't gonna go any higher unless mine go higher, because the elected officials' raises are based on
Yeah,
the
you
clerk
guys.
and recorder salary.
see, I understand Jefferson County uses that PILT money a lot, see, they boost all these wages up and stuff like that.
Who's that?
Jefferson County, and one commissioner said that they ever lose that PILT money, they're in a world
Oh.
of trouble. And
Yeah,
things can change so easy, you know, so, I mean,
Yeah.
and when you're working
Well,
with the
then-
federal government like that, they could say no in a heartbeat.
That's right. They could.
if that
They
happened,
almost did this
look,
year.
look at the mess they would be in, immediately they'd be in the mess, or,
Right. And we're sitting in pretty good shape with the, investments we have and stuff. If we did lose Pelt, I don't think it would, I mean, it would be that drastic, we'd be forced to make changes, but I don't think it would put us into a dangerous situation.
No, and the thing
I
is,
think it would be something we could.
the chances of losing PILT are nil to zero. 49 states have PILT. Mostly counties in those states, I think it's 1153, use PILT. Very few of them have the policy we do of keeping it for mostly emergencies and capital expenditures. So you would have counties all over the country going bankrupt overnight. Now, they may not fully fund it, and of course, we've dealt with that in the past, but it's also a federal law that they have to pay PILT. So, it's an act that went back to what, 68 or something? So, we're not gonna lose it, but it could be underfunded. Regardless, those counties are still gonna be in a world of hurt if they do cut PILT. But, the chances of losing it are realistically very slim.
Well, and that's the reason I don't like to use PILT for salary,
Right.
because, I mean, Jefferson County is a prime example.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
So-
think that's a good idea.
Mm-mm.
Back on the subject of your office, Doug, do you wanna table this and talk about it later? Do you wanna look at a market adjustment of $14.84 per employee, realizing that one employee would get 31 cents an hour more and another would get $1.49 more? Do you wanna work with them some more, or do you wanna bite the bullet?
Why don't you let me check on the longevity
Okay,
in Montana codes and see, because, you know, the one making 31 cents more and one getting bumped up more than $1 an hour, that doesn't
No,
seem fair either.
Mm-mm.
And I think job performance should enter into it somewhere too.
can't.
Uh,
We don't have the ability for merit raises with the
And that's
Me Too
a
clause.
shame, because I think it should.
I agree.
Um,
We can't. We'll open ourselves up to another challenge from the union.
Yeah.
The
And
only
see,
thing.
that's where I have problems with the longevity, because if what I do is gonna affect the people that run this office in the future, and it is,
Mhm.
and we do a market evaluation, and set the wages of each position to be fair, to be even. You know, how do you do that and still,
If we were a private business, it would be up to us, as long as we didn't have a union. But we're not a private business, we do have a union, and we are a government. We don't have those options. The only thing you could do, if you wanted to separate everybody out for more of a fair way of doing it, is figure out what the market adjustment would be for each one of those job descriptions within your
yeah.
office.
And unfortunately, each one of those job descriptions intertwine.
They do, they do.
I mean,
And it could be, Doug, that you would find out that Charles should be paid $15.50 an hour and
Right.
elections is at 13.
well,
You know, we don't know that. Would
You know,
that be
even-
any less fair?
just because Charles is the lowest paid, he kinda came in, that was just luck of the draw. He came in at the time when they said, okay, we're gonna start everybody at $10 an hour. And that's right when he started, so everybody else automatically got bumped up another $1 an hour, and he was down at the $10 an hour. And he's been offered jobs through the Department of Motor Vehicle and through the Department of Revenue and Department of Justice over the phone in our office. They have tried to
Snatch him away, huh?
Mhm.
snatch him away, and you know, not that he's irreplaceable or anything, but he's stuck with it, and, you know,
And that's worth something.
yeah, it does.
And if you do any kind of a market adjustment, I think one thing we need to do moving forward is any new employee starts at a certain amount, less than that. To have them start and then get their probationary raise and to be above somebody else who's already been there is something that we need to stop in this county. That was done years ago as poor management, at best.
Yeah,
So we'd have to determine that as well. But, yeah, if you wanna wait on that and get back to us, we can certainly schedule another working meeting later, whatever works for
the
you.
only thing with the longevity is I'm not sure how that would, well, it wouldn't affect the starting wage. That might be the best answer to keeping it fair. Yeah, let me check on the longevity, and I'll make an appointment to visit with you in a meeting, maybe get here next Wednesday. You'll be doing this next Wednesday,
2 weeks.
or,
Do you wanna do it in 2 weeks?
We're not on for next Wednesday.
No, we're not. We could be, if you
Right.
guys wanna be.
Does that give you enough time?
I think so. I
Wanna
don't
shoot
wanna,
for-
drag you in when you've got other plans either.
I do have another meeting that I said I was free on Wednesday for, if everybody else is. But that's all I have, nothing solid, so, I'm game for a tentative next Wednesday at 10 unless there's a conflict. Does that work for you guys?
I'm fine.
That's Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
the second, isn't it? Yeah, it's a second.
Oh.
Yep. So April 2nd tentatively?
I'm fine with that.
Okay. All right,
Sounds good.
cool. Anything else then on any of this? Okay,
I think we made some headway.
I do too. We'll have to just evaluate the budget, and once we have a finance person or an accounting manager, we can do that and do a journal entry to make sure everything is good there. And we'll bring this up on Monday for a vote and follow through, and table you for a week.
All right.
All right,
That sounds good.
very good.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot,
Thanks,
Doug.
Doug. You know, the legislature changed and put it in the hands of a salary commission in each county compared to what it used to be.
Does that salary commission have, it's not advisory, it only pertains to elected officials, and it's, or is it advisory, do you know?
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious. If they have authority?
I guess I'd have to look at it and see.
Laura, can we make any comment at all for what y'all been talking about? I've been through just what you're discussing now in another county and how bad it went.
You know what, John, I'll give you 3 minutes, we can check.
All right. First of all, a county administrator or a county manager has to be changed with a form of government. Under constitutional law, you are the authority as elected officials to get this county administrator or county manager, which is one and the same, if you use the proper terminology, takes a referendum after change of government. Not what you're talking, what you're doing right now is heresy. Is punishable by severe punishment. Now you need to do some legal adjustment and get off this agenda of state statutory law. This is a constitutional county. Everybody agrees? Laura, is it a constitutional county? Lane?
2 minutes.
I'm not gonna answer that right now, John.
Well, if we're not answer that, that means you've already moved it into state statutory.
John, that doesn't mean anything, other
Yes,
than
it
I'm
does.
not, no, don't argue with me.
Well, you don't argue with me.
I'm telling you, I'm gonna be the one telling you.
No, you can't. You
We're
are
done,
a
John.
public servant.
John,
We're done.
that's enough.
You
You're
are
adjourned.
done. I'm warning you
You're
about this fact. If you go on and do what
John?
you're doing,
That's enough.
That's enough.
Thank you. That's
Enough.
enough.
ignorance is
Thanks,
not
Lynn.
a solution.
Appreciate it. We're not taking any more public comment. If you want to chit chat after one-on-one, I'd be happy to
Oh,
talk to you about anything.
okay.
Well,